Made the right calls.
Whenever you're ready.
Hi, my name is Dayhoff. I'm a senior at Millis High School. This is my senior project. My essential question was, how can I educate the students of Millis about the important skills and tips of buying and negotiating for a car purchase? Why did I choose this project? Lately I've struggled with finding a car that's a good price for me, what car I would want. The volatility of the used car market and the unstableness has caused this. That hasn't hindered my interest in cars. I've had an interest in cars for a long time. I eventually want to pursue my career in the field of automotive technology. I wanted to help future students like me who might be having the same difficulties find a car they love for a good deal. I also wanted to prevent new excited drivers from going out and buying a car that they might not end up liking or might have a lot of problems with. What I hope to achieve from this project, I obviously wanted to answer my essential question. I also wanted to increase my knowledge of cars and negotiation skills in general. Negotiation skills are not just important for car purchases, it's an everyday skill that everyone should have, so I definitely wanted to improve me being able to negotiate for anything. I also wanted to create resources to help future students inspect a car that might be having the same difficulties that I might be having. How I intended to achieve this, I wanted to create a checklist to inspect a car from head to toe, so you have it right there with you when you're inspecting the car. I also wanted to have an information panel for senior project day. Lacey Atkinson hosted it. I wanted to be able to get my checklist in the hands of people who might not be so mechanically inclined to get advice on whether to add or simplify things. I also wanted to create a series of videos on how to inspect certain parts of a car that might be more difficult for the layman. I also wanted to explain why a checklist is important. It allows for you to really organize information like no other system. As you just go and inspect the car, you can just simply check it off and what you've gotten done and what you have checked for any problems. It also makes sure you don't forget anything. Cars are very complex machines, and any little things that might go wrong could cause a huge problem in the long run. So you definitely want to make sure you're checking everything, and a checklist does facilitate that. It can also be used as a bargaining tool. You can really tell the owner what specifically is wrong with the vehicle, and you can really use that to get the price down, lower than what you might want it. Why has the used car market become so volatile? In short, the COVID-19 pandemic has caused a lot of problems. To be more specific, major disruptions to supply chains, basically anything from tires, seats, trim pieces have all been disrupted due to COVID-19, and now there's a backlog for those kind of parts, which make them more expensive, which make the new cars expensive, which pushes people to go into the used market sector, which it also increases demand of used cars, increasing the prices. As you can see from the chart, used car prices have gone up exponentially compared to home prices, new car prices, and overall inflation. As well as that, the microchip shortage, if you don't know what a microchip is, it's basically allowed for computers, phones, any kind of technology to become miniaturized, and a lot of that technology has been used in the car market. And due to the supply chain issues with those as well, it's also made it hard for new cars to be produced. As well as this, inflation has been a huge cause in increasing prices in pretty much anything, but especially heavy financial burdens like cars and houses. A couple trends I found in the car brand reliability. 8 out of the top 10 spots for most reliable car brands are actually held by the Japanese automakers. I found this very surprising that a single country could hold so many spots in such a competitive market. Surprisingly, another surprising thing I found is Buick is the only American automaker on the list, so it's not an old person car anymore. Japan has superior manufacturing practices, which allows them to have such an edge when it comes to producing these vehicles. They check the process from design, manufacturing, to rolling it out. They don't want to roll it out unless they are sure that it's going to be the minimal amount of problems as possible. Other things I found surprising, electric car reliability may actually be a myth. You may think that since there's less moving parts, there's no combustion, it may actually be more reliable, but combustion engines have actually had 100 years to kind of work out the systems and kinks and flaws that might have and overcome them. Electric cars just haven't had that kind of edge, and because of that, maintenance issues tend to pop up more prevalent. There's also car brands you'd least expect to be less reliable. Luxury brands like Audi and Mercedes actually score 47 out of 100 and 34 out of 100 according to Kelley Blue Book. These luxury brands that you actually pay more money for are actually less reliable in the long run, so I just found that surprising. As well as Jeep, which is kind of known for its off-roading capabilities, you'd want it to be more reliable, but it actually scores one of the lowest at 26 out of 100. I also want to give some quick tips on each category I sorted the cars into to inspect it. For the engine, you want to make sure all the fluids are topped off, there's no leaks. You want to make sure you're running the car when you're checking for leaks, just to make sure the whole system's pressurized. A healthy engine should be idling between a certain RPM range or revolutions per minute, which is around 800, 1200, depending on which car you get. When you're starting up the car and when it's already warmed up, you want to listen for any abnormal sounds, knocking or pinging that could really tell when something might be wrong with the engine. For the interior, you want to make sure everything is in working order, especially the mirrors, windows. You want to make sure the windows in the rear are are functioning correctly. You want to check to see if the car has a spare tire and jack. A lot of new cars don't have a spare tire. However, you always want to make sure it has a jack for any emergencies. You want to make sure all trim pieces are in place. No one wants a junky car that looks like it's been through hell and back. But just make sure all the trim pieces are in place and everything's clean. Some quick tips on the exterior. I didn't realize this, but you always want to inspect the car when it's dry. If the car is wet, it could hide dinks, dents, or even scratches. So if it's wet, you want to make sure you just let the owner know, maybe you'll inspect it another day. Always check the tire pressure and especially the tread. The tread lets you know how much life is left in the tire, and if you're buying tires that are almost bald, you're going to have to get new ones, which is going to add to the cost of the car. You want to make sure all lights are in working order. It's hard to tell if a light is working and when you're actually driving the car. I'm sure you've all had a blinker go out and you don't realize. So you want to make sure you're doing that while it's stationary when you're buying the car. You also want to make sure the windshield has no cracks or even chips in the windshield could cause bigger cracks, which could lead to a problem. Now, what did my project actually become? As you can see, this is the first page of my checklist. I made a comprehensive checklist, which was my first goal. To achieve this, I had multiple trials. The first trial I had was to get basically a base foundation on what I wanted to be in it and what I wanted to be separated into. The second trial I tested with some friends, see what information I wanted to add, and I ended up actually adding way too much information. So I had to dial it back and simplify it and condense it and make sure it wasn't too long or tedious to read. The videos did not end up come to fruition. I made up for this by making the checklist much more detailed than I initially planned. They were meant to go side by side, but due to time constraints, I ended up just making the checklist a lot more detailed. My successes, obviously I made the checklist and it will be useful for future generations of drivers. That's one of my major goals. I also increased my knowledge in cars in general, which is another major goal I wanted to, so I feel a lot more prepared when I'm buying cars and when I go into the field. I had a lot of failures in this project, which I feel like a lot of seniors have gone through. I didn't actually have a car with enough issues to demonstrate what to inspect. A lot of my parents' cars are newer, so it doesn't have that many problems. I missed many deadlines for the project and many project-related assignments, which held me back in the long run. I didn't think about how to get the checklist out there near the end. I have the checklist and it's available to the public, but I don't really have a place to put it as of now. I also didn't take enough pictures, which led to my presentation becoming much more simplified and not personal. Now, what I got out of this project, despite my failures, like I said, increased my knowledge in cars and especially negotiating. I feel a lot more confident when it comes to negotiating for a used car. I will use this checklist for my next car purchase and will give it out willingly to friends and family and whoever needs it, even younger siblings I may have. I've definitely learned to better manage my time when it comes to a big project like this. You definitely want to manage your time better, because else you might get backed up and you won't have any time to finish anything. You want to reach out to people with experience, and especially an expert with a problem you might have. Experts definitely know a lot more than just normal people. I also learned to push myself more. When you push yourself more, you honestly are probably more capable than you think you are, and I wish I had pushed myself more during this project. I want to give a thank you to my mentor with a cameo to my mom. My mentor, Gene, who's my stepdad, gave me a lot of feedback because he's had a lot more experience, buying cars and inspecting them. Also wanted to give a thanks to Mr. Caulfield, although not directly involved in my project. He's allowed my speaking abilities to definitely improve from the beginning of the year. And also a thank you to Mr. Carter for allowing me to turn a lot of my assignments in late, but also giving me a lot of essay writing advice and telling me who I should contact for certain things. Here's my works cited, and second half questions.